Welcome everybody. Red morning. Carl and me. How you guys doing? I'm doing well. Carl, how you doing?
I'm doing well too. COVID's starting to open back up again. We have some sun going out now. It's nice outside. Girls are going outside. Yeah, they have COVID bodies, but most of them got much bigger tits.
Dude, they're doing that here. I'm laughing. The parks are just packed right now of day drinkers. It's the most wonderful thing I've ever seen. The fuck Doug crowd.
Yeah, man, it's like I live in a fairly central area here, and people have been partying every day. Like this was always a party heavy area. That's why I live here, but
Mm-hmm.
I've never, had back to back, like I've heard after parties going at 4 o'clock in the morning, like 9 days in a row.
I don't know what it's just it's I guess it's because I've been 15 months with everything closed here. I didn't want much. I just wanted the gym. And every now and then I wanted to go, pick up and go write the book in Starbucks and spend a day in there drinking coffee and working. Also, John, what happened with my hair? I don't know. It's just shower hair. Normally I style it for you guys, but I figure it's Saturday. You guys are either at work just listening to this, not even looking, or you're hungover, so you get what you get. Just be glad that 50% of us decided to at least look you in the eyes on the camera, okay?
I'd say that's a punching well beyond our weight.
Exactly. Man, I wish we were in that European country though, wherever you are, or Asian, or I don't even know at this point, because there's like Toronto's nicknamed the Six, and there's a very good reason for it because we're like the 6 out of 10 capital of the world, man. We just don't have boobs in the street, not really, other than I guess we're also North America's top Instagram influencer like home base or whatever. So chicks, right? What are you gonna do?
No, it was so nice just kind of like walking through the city and seeing the girls have the girls all out all over the place. Girls day drinking and tanning in thong bikinis in the parks.
Oh, and the girls here are so pasty that it's like you have to wear sunglasses. Like I actually had one of them. I had to like start squinting and looking away. I was like, Jesus Christ, she needs the sun.
Hey, dude, I'm the same way. Like I'm starting to see, like pale Somalis at this point.
Oh, really? Ooh.
Like everyone's been cooped the fuck up for like a year and a half, no sun.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's
It's
been
white boy problems, man. For me, I went out. I got 20 minutes of sun this year, and I'm already like 4 shades darker. If I go out for another day, I'll be like East Indian dark. I'm
Yeah,
just
just be
blessed that way.
careful. Don't go out like 3 more days, or you may end up, getting special treatment from the police.
Oh, yeah, that one would suck. Having said that, though, I get to start pulling some like race cards on here. I can pretend to be whatever minority just happened to get shut by the cops last week. Griff for some money. Get some of that sweet Black Lives Matter housing money, man. You see that?
Yeah,
You
like
see that, Griff? That's
I,
awesome.
I didn't, but I'm just don't want to come on here for a show one Saturday and be like, yeah, sorry guys, Ryan's not going to be here today. Got choked out by the police because he went into the sun one time too many.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. I'm anti-cop, kind of like you, but I shouldn't be. Like I'm was raised in the super conservative rural area, a bunch of years in the military. Actually, I think the military is what got me to hate it because military police just drove me nuts. Like if I have to hear one more time as I just were like, "Hey, say hi to some guy," and he's like, "Don't fuck with me. I used to be infantry." I'm just gonna fucking shit a donkey. I swear to God. I don't know. This has nothing to do with anything either. I'm having fun though. It's Saturday. You guys enjoy yourself.
No, but we always have those long, rambly intros.
Yeah, but usually we're talking about like food. Oh, speaking of which, dude, I don't know. Do you pickle often? Like when you cook?
Oh, once in a while, why?
Okay, my pickled egg recipe, I think I've got it perfected. It's goddamn marvelous. And I have to share it with somebody, and you're the only one that I think will actually appreciate it. Like I took, you know how ramen eggs have that like liquefied egg yolk?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I've been experimenting forever on how to consistently get that, and I finally figured it out. It was from like an old Chef John Food Wishes video. What you do is you get like a thumbnail's worth of water in a flat bottom pot. You put it on the stove, and just as it starts to boil, you put the first put eggs all down in the first layer, so you don't stack them, and then you turn it down to the stove down to medium. You put the lid on it. You leave it for 9.5 minutes. I do 9 minutes because I'm fiddling around too much with shit, right? And then you rinse them all under cold water, and that will give you the perfect egg every time, where it's like soft boiled, where the yolk just stopped becoming liquefied, which is perfect because when you make your brine, it's the standard stuff. You use like 1 cup of vinegar, a tablespoon of sugar, a tablespoon of salt. And then what I do add differently is I add like a tablespoon of soy sauce, or just color it to the way you like it. And then a little bit of like cooking wine or mirin, like about another cup of that, whatever. Leave it in the fridge 3 days. The things, they don't even taste like eggs at this point. They taste like candy. Like it's like you know how avocados have that buttery scent. It's like that. And dude, I'm just in love with it. I've made like 60 of them in the past month and a half, and it's awesome.
And I made avocado toast for the first time today.
Oh, dude, welcome. Did you do the salt on top?
Oh, of course, I had to try that, but like I don't get what the hype is.
It's just like butter on toast, but it's avocado. I don't know. Like this is the one time where you can like see the full millennial in me. I love avocado toast. I won't pay $10 for it, but I love the shit.
Well, I just wanted to try it out, so I kind of did like a version that was sort of like how I do my guac. So
Yeah.
you had red pepper flakes, salt, pepper, and lime, and it was nice enough. I'm still not sure if it can compete with like deli cold cuts or something.
Oh, yeah, it's not. It's a different thing. But I mean, I think you got to keep it simple. Just literally some kosher salt flaked on top, and then just the avocados by themselves. I find that's when it's best.
But
It's
like,
just
to
like
be honest,
raw,
though,
naked avocado flavor.
yeah, but like I would have eaten anything though for lunch today because I really messed up yesterday.
What do you mean?
Well,
How do you
I
mess
was
up?
well, I was going out with some people, and with the like, it's kind of mixed here whether there will be food or not. Like some parties have food, some don't. And this was kind of the one where you kind of expect them to have food. So I didn't eat that much. Well, I'm doing OMAD, so I hadn't eaten anything all day. So I just went over there, and the only thing they had to eat was potato chips. So I ate like 100 grams of potato chips all day, along with like 6 or 7 beers. So I woke
Oh,
up this morning, and then I was running around trying to do a bunch of stuff this morning, and I came in, and I was so hungry, my stomach was hurting.
that's such like a that's like a chick diet. What have you eaten today? I had about 7 potato chips and a wine, a wine spritzer. Or my boss when I was sailing, he was gay, right? And he was 40. His boyfriend back home, who lived in Toronto at the time, was like 23. And he goes, when he get home, if I keep this weight on, he's gonna leave me for another man. And so he went on his coffee and cigarette diet. And that's all I could think about when you were talking about that. But it was just hilarious talking about like the old wifey back home. Meanwhile, they're just having gay parties in a giant patio. Yeah.
Well, that old thing kind of reminds me of the like the fisherman's diet. I think it was Sig Hansen on Deadliest Catch was talking about it. It was like coffee, cigarettes, and chocolate.
Why chocolate?
Well, it's calorie dense, so it's filling, and you get a lot of calories in quick that way.
Oh, fair enough.
Like I used to have a buddy who used to compete in fighting, so he had to make weights.
Uh-huh.
And when he was on like the last end of his cut, where he's on like 1,000 calories a day to make weights,
Jesus,
he would
that's
just
not much.
he would just eat 200 grams of chocolate every fucking day because well, it's if you shove an entire like 200 grams of chocolate that's down your gullet, that's about 1,000 to 1,200 calories, but it's really fucking filling because there's so much fat and sugar in it.
Fair enough. I guess that's better than just those guys that try eating like a quarter cup of olive oil and think that's good enough. And then they wonder why they can't keep, well, anal explosiveness ensues.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like with. Have you ever been to one of those all-you-can-eat steakhouses?
I did once. It was in the States, and I was like, how the hell do they afford this? I'm so amazed. But what did you do? So what's the story on this?
No, the story on it is just if you go in there and you just go nuts and you just steer away from anything that's not meat,
Mm-hmm.
you can put away a ton of high-end meat there, and you won't have to eat for like 3 days afterwards because that ribeye is just sitting there in your stomach, being like, "Yeah, I'm not fully digested yet."
Oh, okay. See, I wasn't smart to that one, but I did go one of those. Was it Brazilian meat houses? Is that what they do? Where they just have the big kebabs and they just cut meat off of it and throw it onto your plate every time you ask? I
Yeah, you
think it
have
was
those,
Brazil.
and yeah, those tend to be the ones with all you can eat. I've seen it a few other places too, where they'll do like grill houses or something.
Yeah,
The
yeah, I
best
get
one
into
is
them.
barbecue. The best one though is barbecue all you can eat.
I have not. I've never seen a barbecue all you can eat place yet. This must was this when you were living in the States that used to go to it? Because you were in some southern place, weren't you, where you were stilling your own whiskey?
Yeah, there was one place that used to have that on occasion, but only for special invitees. It wasn't something they actually did for the regular customer.
Oh, fair enough. I guess you're just so goddamn special.
I know.
All
No,
right.
but back to the pickling thing. I would advise do red onions
Oh, my girl actually just did a batch of red onions when I was doing the pickles.
because
And yeah,
like
it's
pickled red onions is awesome on almost everything.
dude, everything. I have my ham slices in the fridge for sandwiches. I use it on those. We throw it in burritos and tacos. I don't know why more people don't do it. It's the most amazing thing I've ever eaten, ever.
Yeah, yeah.
It
No, they
just goes
implemented
with
a
it. You're
couple.
right. It goes with everything. I was thinking we've used it in nachos, we've used it in tacos, burritos, sandwiches, cold cuts,
Burgers.
burgers, salads.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
everything.
I did come up with a couple of new kitchen life hacks though.
Ooh, now you got me peaked. I'm all ears.
Because there are some things in the kitchen that you use all the time that
Mm-hmm.
requires, cleaning or peeling. Like I use a ton of like I barely make anything without like at least two cloves of garlic in it. So I just buy like two, three bulbs of garlic and I just clean all of them up and I keep them in a sealed Tupperware container in the fridge.
Okay.
It saves about 30, 40 seconds every time you need garlic.
Oh, that's not bad. We
And
just
then,
went full lazy style. We go to the Costco and get the big one of already minced in the big 1 liter, and then just start
oh
spooning the shit
Jesus.
into everything. Yeah. What can I say? Every now and then, I mean, you've seen my knives. You know when I have to make the choice between efficiency and that extra 5% of flavor, I'll take the efficiency any day.
Yeah, that's fair. I also started chopping up vegetables for a mirepoix and just keeping like a small container of that in the fridge.
Oh, you're getting into the prep cook. You got to get the 1 quart Tupperwares. Like I don't know if you guys have kitchen supply stores where you're at, but we do, and we'll go there and we'll buy like 10 or 12 of the 1 quart tubs or one. I guess they're like 2 liters. Prep cook everything: spring onions, normal onions, garlic, potatoes. Our fridge right now basically looks like the fridge that somebody would be cooking in their goofy little restaurant on.
Fair enough.
And it just saves you
And
so much time
Dante,
during the week. That's like our Sunday. We'll just have like a date night where we prep a whole bunch of food after a Costco trip. And then throughout the whole week, we just grab a plate, put one together, and throw it in the microwave. And the ingredients will work. Like each third of them will work for individual things, but then you just mix and match them for, burritos one day, I don't know, some quinoa salad the next day. And like everything works with everything else, except for the lemon potatoes. You just kind of got to eat those on their own.
fair enough. And Dante has a good point in chat too here with you should try kimchi or asara from the Philippines. Never had that one.
I've never had the at Sara either, but kimchi. I heard isn't kimchi like miso, where you can either pay for good kimchi or pay for a good doctor, like their way of saying don't make it yourself, or is it actually easy to make yourself?
I've made kimchi, so it's not that hard to make, but it's kind of with everything. Like whenever you're doing pickling stuff, you're always risking that infection.
Yeah, which is weird. I don't know how people do it. Like I know if you're doing the fermented, that's where the risk comes in. You want anything super sanitized in that, but then there's the easy lazy one out with it's just like the pickling with the brining. That
Yeah.
one I've never had an issue with. And I'm not the exact. I haven't been the cleanest all the time with stuff. Usually I'll just grab whatever jars are out of the cabinet. I don't worry about sanitizing them first.
Well, you could buy what probably would work if you want to speed up your sanitizing. Just go to any brewing supply store and buy like a small thing of Star San.
Oh, that's the stuff that yeah, the liquid sanitizing spray stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a non-rinse sanitizer. So what you do is you just spray it on, wait
Mm-hmm.
30 seconds, and it's clean.
Well, that might work. I could start going the fermenting route. I haven't made a oh, what the hell is it called again? This the cream one, creme fraiche. I haven't made creme fraiche in forever, and that would probably work out great for that.
Yeah,
It's
it
another
might.
one,
I
you
don't know.
guys. I haven't done a cooking video on it yet, but if you haven't made creme fraiche, it's fucking ridiculously easy. Just get like a whipping cream or any high fat cream. I like table cream because whipping cream tastes too much like whipping cream. And then you just put like either a spoonful of buttermilk or a spoonful of like yogurt to get the bacteria going. Put the mason, like the not the twisty thing on there, but just the plate on top to keep things from floating around it, or just some saran wrap. Leave it out for like a day, day and a half, and you basically made your own like super awesome version of sour cream. It's goddamn delicious. And then you just use that as your starter when you want to make more, and it lasts like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's clever. Okay, so let's see here. I just figure we should go get into the topic here. We can talk about food for 15 minutes. I'm getting hungry.
You caught that one, did you?
Yeah, so starting off with control freak women, I think that kind of works well into that honey-do list talk from earlier. And a little bit into a point I made a couple of shows ago that if you want people in your life, you kind of have to make space for them.
Yeah.
And I think that, and making space for someone, they can accept that in bad faith or good faith. Which means they can either try to take more space or they can try to accommodate you. So that's just my baseline view of it. And then you have to move to a degree of extreme in order for it to be, let's say, too much. Let's say controlling behavior.
Right.
I'd say it's entirely normal. Let's say if you're flying to another city for work, for your girl to be like, hey, text me when you're at the hotel. I think that's a completely fair thing. Like, text me when you get there.
I'll put a big asterisk on that one because actually this one just came up in the community. I think not last week or not this week, but the week before. I'm of two minds on it. On one, if the girl's great in every which way, good sex life, great otherwise, yeah, little comfort tests like this are probably a good thing. Because you already got your shit in order, you're attractive, you're not unattractive. And so generally she's going to have some worries. Well, he's off on a business trip. Obviously, any girl could have him. Maybe they'll take him. Doing stuff like that. Hey, don't worry, babe, I got you. Wonderful. Absolutely great. I find a lot of guys, though, when their wife hasn't slept with them for God knows how long. However long you guys are picturing a dry spell in your head, like that. And then all of a sudden, the wife does it as like a control thing. Well, if you're going like, I'm going to go to Starbucks work for the day. Well, call me when you're there. Let me know which one you're at. And then they like show up at some point later on. It's there like to keep an eye on them, And I don't like
But
that
I would
shit.
no, but I would argue that the main difference between our two scenarios is that okay, if I'm going to if I'm like okay, I'm going to go to the next town over for work. And my girl's like, yeah, text me when you get there. You'd be like, fuck no, I'm just going there for the day to work. But let's say you're going to be away for a week and you fly from, let's say you fly from the East Coast to the West Coast. I think it's kind of normal to be like, yeah, no one fucked with me, killed me on my way to the hotel. I'm at the hotel. Everything's cool.
Yeah. Like I said, I think and you're not wrong. The only difference I see on it is like, is she fucking you? Like, has she earned? Because this is a gift. I take everything as a gift. Carl is great. Carl's girl thinks Carl is great. So, of course, she treats Carl well. And why wouldn't Carl treat her well back? But if she's not treating you well, and you can't just immediately next because you got 2 kids, it's like, you're aware that that's like reasonable treatment, but so is like not turning your husband into a eunuch. And I get it. It's not a permanent situation. It's not sustainable. But then again, neither is like a dead bedroom either. And I find guys just have to get out of that comfort zone where they're so worried about they're worried about being presentable or reasonable or what was the word you used? I forgot. Did you call it reasonable or?
I don't remember, but I'd
Right,
say
something like that.
well, just my point on control is that
Yeah.
you have degrees of it.
Oh,
Like-
that much we agree on.
And let's take an example from work, for instance, because everyone's worked with a micromanaging boss, and that drives you nuts. And everyone's worked with someone who is just way too fucking lax. So it's like you were told about your deadlines like 4 days after the deadline ran out. They tell you, oh, you were supposed to do this, yeah, but you didn't fucking tell me. So it's not like control is binary, that it's all bad or all good. It's that control is both good and bad, and you have to review it from a context.
Yeah.
Like, I had a friend who was like, his girl wanted him, like, if we were out on a guy's night out, he would be texting her the entire night. Yeah, we're at this bar. No, there are no girls here. No, we're not at the strip club. That's too much.
Yeah. That's control.
So, and most control issues stem from fear, in my estimation. You're scared of something.
Well, I was going to
And
say insecurity, but I guess same thing, basically, right? Yeah.
oh, I'd say the feeling at the bottom of every need to control is fear, and the more fear is there, the more effort is put into the control. It's to do the BPD chick analogy, they tend to be very fucking controlling because they have that innate fear of loss. But their controlling behavior drives people away. And the same thing if you have a controlling boss, they eventually drive away all their best employees because no competent person with options wants to work for someone who second guesses them and follows them on every minute detail.
Yeah, the brain drain is real. Yeah, I know. I 100% agree. And it's not just chicks either. I've seen, like, the guys. When we always joke about the beta male being the cuck or whatever, just wants his trad family, they tend to be very controlling too. Even Franco talks about it in Practical Female Psychology, is that if a girl is at, what did Rollo call it? The epiphany phase, where they want to settle down, they start getting babies. That bit of control to them is attractive because they have that need to want to have a kid and a dad and the patriarchal shit. But other than that, outside of that, it just comes across, yeah. The control is there because you don't know, you don't have options, you're scared of losing what you got, that scarcity mentality that we always talk about. And it's painfully obvious. I never saw it when I was young and I was doing it, because when you're in the middle of it, you don't see it. But from the outside, you can just see the simp wafting off of people. And it's just it's damn sad, man. Pickled simp.
Well, it was kind of like what I want to get into with control is the same thing with the honey-do lists and that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, or, you know, the making space, it's something that you kind of have to do if you want a girl in your life. But what kind of decides if it's good or bad is context and I'd say frequency slash volume slash severity.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd say it's completely normal, let's say, for your girl to text you if she knows you're out, like, hey, can you grab some milk at the store or whatever while you're out
Yeah,
anyway.
that's logistics. That's whatever, right?
And those are just logistical things. And then there's the whole aspect of, you know, suddenly your entire apartment is painted fucking pink. That's too far the other way.
Unless you're a Pink fan. I don't know. Maybe the Vaporwave Miami look is what you're into. I can't judge. I have pink shirts. Fuck, what was the point in this one, too? Yeah, it's funny, too, because I think, what's, like, the standard Manosphere line? I'm trying to remember it now, because I've noticed that everything in the Manosphere has blocked me now, which is awesome. But it's always like, you know, if she does anything, you have to have 100% control. Put your thumb on it. What was Donovan's things? Like, put a GPS tracker in her car and, like, keep her on lockdown. And that's how you keep a good marriage. And I'm just thinking, like, put aside if it's an insecure thing, put aside if it's a fear thing. The amount of work involved with controlling an entire other human being. And then what's the result of it? You basically absolve them of any accountability or, like, responsibility for their own life. Like, if you go control freak on some chick and she ends up cheating, well, now it's because, well, your GPS tracker ran out of battery. It's not my fault. You knew I was going to fall on dick as soon as you got out there. But you notice that, though? Like, the insecurity is, like, its own self-fulfilling prophecy. And then the guy will literally go to himself, you're right, I should have locked down harder. And then what do? They double down. All right, now I'm going to put a chastity belt on her cooter. And you're just like,
to me, that's...
fuck the sphere.
and to me, that's like the ultimate beta signaling.
Absolutely.
And it's that along with the same thing with losing your temper over bullshit. Nothing's a bigger... It's a big sign of insecurity for me because I've never seen someone who was confident and self-assured and aloof who lost their shit over what some random person said.
Yeah, well, isn't that the rule of thumb? Like if it's truly something that's worth getting like angry about, chances are you should be doing something. If you have time to bitch about it, then it's not really that serious.
Yeah, that's true, and I think it kind of carries into that controlling thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if some guy told me that, I put a GPS tracker on my girl's car, I have a tracer on her phone, I have a geofenced area set in my app, so I'm warned if she goes outside these 4 blocks. Like, what that screams to me here is a man who's not secure in his dick game, A,
Yeah.
or B, someone who's currently trying to wife up a hoe, or C, all the above.
Don't get me wrong, I'm all for hoes. Reformed hoes, if you act right, sure, but I'm with you. It just seems it's like the guy who's a good little earner. His wife doesn't want to have sex with him, and so what's his solution? Well, I'm just going to work harder and earn more money. It's like misplaced effort. By the way, Dante's right. Thank you for all 1, 2, 3 of you guys. Hit the like button. Really helps with the algorithm. By the way, let's get these numbers up. These are rookie numbers. I think more
Oh, I
guys
would
need
say,
to see this thing and learn about how to handle their life without being a manosphere caricature, you know?
yeah, it was kind of like one of the, like I was laying in bed really fucking stoned the other night, and for some reason, I started to think about sexual dynamics.
Oh, couldn't sleep, huh?
And, and I started to go down this rabbit hole on it, and I think I landed on what might be the topic for my next book.
Ooh, book 3. You got me peaked.
Because, because I'm kind of at the point where I think everything we produce in the manosphere are band-aids that aren't getting at the real problem.
Dude.
Because because
Yeah.
every single guy who's in here has the same problem. They don't think they're attractive.
Ooh, a core issue. Okay, you got me peaked now. Walk me through this.
Well, the reasoning is like, why would you need to learn game? Why would you need to get in shape? All
Right?
of these things are activities that are designed to build your own confidence in yourself. And the
Is it
reason
confident? Oh,
is,
okay. Well, anyway, I'm cutting you off. I want to hear the whole thing here.
well, my reasoning is like all these things we do, like be attractive, don't be unattractive, is
Mm-hmm.
that once the guys are through a certain amount of that checklist, that inner voice that keeps telling them no one wants to fuck you, no one wants to fuck you, no one wants to fuck you, quiets down enough because the guru's voice kind of takes over inside them. And then they're able to go out and run game. And then once they start getting positive feedback from women, that inner voice gets, let's say, just a lot of data on like, hey, these 10 girls fucked me. That means I can't be a complete fucking slob.
My
And
dick
I,
can't be that dirty.
and that's why I kind of landed on like the core issue there being it's not about what girls, if girls find the person attractive, it's about what they think of themselves. And everything we do here, every program, every course, every book, everything that's produced here is just a way to remedy that and to give you a feeling of control because you've read Rollo's books, so you understand hypergamy, you understand the yeah, but the reason no one Ryan tells you no one wants to fuck you is because you're actually the exception that no one wants to fuck. Anyway, where was I mid rant here? Well, the point I was getting at was all of these things are just band aids to get the guy to the point where he thinks he's fuckable enough that someone will touch his dick.
See,
And
that's like such a PUA thing. Like you could be fat and still run good game. I know that's not what you're saying, but I just want to add like sometimes there is some objective shit to work on, but I agree that everybody in the sphere is doing that. But that's the problem is they're not doing like if you were just doing that, get the guy to the point where he's confident enough in his abilities that it works out, and then he stops stepping on his own dick, right? But I think what the sphere is doing, at least now, the 2016 mega sphere, or whatever you want to call it, is they understand that that's an insecurity, and so they drill into it because as soon as you tap into somebody's fear, you skip that frontal lobe processing, you hit the limbic brain shit, and then what does the limbic brain go and do? Hey, let's get this course, let's get laid, let's watch the podcast, let's yell at women, let's buy this course, let's buy this merch. And that's why it bugs me so much, because it's not actually helpful. It's just it's chemo. It's not a cure for cancer. If that makes sense, the way I'm doing the metaphor there.
Yeah, I understand where you're getting at.
And I get what you're saying too, because if that was all it was, okay, clearly the guy just needs needs a little bit of training wheels. Get your 6.5 and looks up to a 7 where you're fine. Get your game from a 6 to a 7, like very marginal levels of improvement, right? If that was the case, it'd be awesome. But I mean, we were talking about this earlier. Like, when it comes to sexual dynamics, we've kind of already covered all of it. Like, there's not much more to it other than rehashing old stuff or rewording it, right?
No, but I think the core issue we're getting at there with that fear is something that hits both sexes, but it manifests in different ways. Because men respond by mate guarding. Women respond by nest controlling and trying to control the environment and making the environment do the control for them. Because, like it or not, if you want to, tail your chick all the time to make sure she doesn't have a single opportunity to slip and land on a dick, that's a full-time job right there.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it is, it's not that hard for your chick to get a burner phone and be like, yeah, honey, I'm going to work. And she goes into work. She's not supposed to work that day, so she stashes the phone. You put the GPS tracker on in her locker. She grabs a burner phone. She's off getting fucked for 8 hours. She goes back to the office, grabs a shower, and then she grabs her real phone and goes home.
Mm-hmm. And guys joke, but like, I've seen this before. Fuck, not only have I seen it, guys in the Red Pill have seen it. Ultimate Cad, I talk about him all the time. He used to be in cabs with chicks who would tell him, like, shut up for a minute, and then she'd call home, call the kids, call dad. Yeah, we're just working a little late. I'll be home soon. Don't worry about it. And then he's like, she just told her kids she loved him with the mouth that was just sucking my dick 10 minutes earlier. It's like, what the fuck? And it's like, no wonder why so many of these guys, and it's like the purarchy thing, where there was like, these red pill guys hate women. And I'm like, can you blame them? This guy was married. His wife treated him like shit until he treated her like shit, and then she started acting right. I don't know. I don't want to go into his story. I've done it like 18 times, but it's like the worse he acted, the better women treated him. So of course he's going to be like, what the hell is wrong with these people? And he gets a big chip on his shoulder. And to be fair, I just think that's because guys have a really bad idea at what good and bad behavior means. And they don't tailor it to reality. So I think it's their fantasy is the bad behavior.
I just think it comes down to, once you've interacted with enough women and you've been the guy who's in the cab with her while she's calling dad, you've been the guy who's next to her in bed when she talks about how much of a dick her boyfriend is, and you've closely observed the womanese and the female logic at play and in full bloom, it's very hard not to hate women a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah, the early frame announcement. It's the Franco's term. I actually love that I'm reading PFP again. There's so many things I forgot. Like those early frame announcements. Guys used to take those and think, girls are so illogical. She just said she loved her husband. Then why is she having sex with you? It's like, yeah, that's the early frame announcement. That's her way of saying, just so you know, I'm not a slut. I'm a good woman. I'm a good wife. I'm a good mother. And that's all she wants to establish before she goes and just does whatever with anal. And then once you start looking at it, it's like solipsism. When a girl says something, this is some way of like projecting her ego out to the world. And then once you process it like that, it makes perfect sense. And I actually I never really had an anger about it either. Like, well, women ain't shit. For me, it was more like it's going to sound bad, but kind of like a mixture of pity and like kids say the darndest things, you know? It's like, that must suck to live in a world where everything has to be like directly come from your ego, without any processing whatsoever or any empathy with the outside world and how that's taken. There's a lot of ways to look at it. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah, it's a fair view of it. I just think we're all imperfect for the most part. But I think that fear sabotages on both sides. Because no one likes to be controlled. And some of us, including me, even have a very adverse reaction to people attempting to control you. It gets to the point like you'll end up cheating just on principle because the other person was trying to prevent you from cheating that hard, so you end up doing it on point.
Oh yeah, it's self-fulfilling completely. And the worst part is the people that are most likely to do that are the people that it was most worth getting with. Like Carl, great catch. I think I'm safe in assuming you're a great catch, and any woman that gets you for any length of time should be happy for the pleasure. But by her trying to control you because she's worried about losing you, that, like you said, it's going to make you more likely to actually just say, "Fuck this! I'm going to go have sex with your sister," or some random girl.
To be honest, like I really wanted to do like a second round of the Tinder experiment, not to get laid, but I just wanted to do like a profile. I had the idea here the other day of doing like the flipping the script on the women because they all have that profile, not on here for hookups, looking for a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
I've played the game, and I kind of wanted to do like a spin on that profile and just see how many girls actually figured out, okay, this guy's just out to get laid, and he figured out how to hack the system because you're essentially playing into her excuses that she's not there for hookups. And she can be like, yeah, but this guy said it was for a long-term relationship. How was I supposed to know he just wanted to fuck me?
I don't know. You know what I think it's going to be like? I think it's going to be like, when there's like a mixed group of people from all kinds of different countries, and the ones over there are speaking like Spanish or something like that. Perfect example. My girl will be in an elevator. Two people there speaking Spanish, and then she knows Spanish, but they don't know that. But then she starts speaking Spanish as like a blonde white girl. I think it's that first moment of surprise. Is like, wait a minute, she knows Spanish. I think it's like that. I think that's how your profile would be taken, just like that, which would be hilarious. Because I don't know. I don't think it'll work against you. I think it's just it's no different than, what did they call it for the last minute resistance? Like the best solution for it was to nip it in the butt, like early before you even have to get to the bedroom. Like you make up the excuses. Yeah, we shouldn't be doing this. We're moving too fast. And you do all that stuff while you're still making out on the couch. So by the time you get to the bedroom, the girl's already gotten through all that last minute stuff. She has no anti-slut defenses up, and it's just smash city and have some fun.
Yeah, though, I will admit, like, I have very limited LMR experience. Like, I think I've had it happen, like, once or twice.
Yeah. I mean, that just means your game is tight, right? I used to have it.
I
I
know.
used to have it early, but then the later I moved on, the less I had it. So I think it's just one of those
No,
things you have to kind of improve past.
like, I know we've talked about it before, but I always get skeptical because, like, if some guy's like, yeah, I have a fuck ton of LMR, 8 out of 10 times I sleep with the chick, I'm like, okay, this is a rape charge waiting to fucking happen.
Well, yeah, and it's weird because I don't think it's the girls don't want that. I think the girl. I mean, what's the girl's thing? I want to sleep with hot dudes, have fun, and I don't want to be judged for it. Essentially. And so I think the guys that get a lot of LMR are so singularly focused on getting dick that they forget that aftercare part of it. Like, just let her know, hey, just so you know, I'm not going to brag about this to my friends so you hear about it at church the next day. I think the guys who are really bad at that part of it always get that last minute resistance. And sure, you can plow through it because the girl still does want to smash, but like you said, you're playing with fire. I've seen it
I
now.
think
Like,
it's
treat a girl like shit, and yeah, they have a chance to blow up your fucking life. I have a red pill coffee video I just put out with that TikTok chick talking about this shitty date where a guy ghosted on her, and then she starts bringing up his job and shit, and I'm like, is that like a threat? And I think it could be. Maybe not from her, but a lot of girls would.
Well, I've always kind of reasoned with LMR that it's a fear of you leaking her business. Like if she knows that you're a really shady dude,
Mm-hmm.
she's like, okay, if I fuck this guy, I expect him to tell all his friends.
Yep.
But if you're in that middle ground where she's like, okay, he's hot and I want to sleep with him, but I'm not sure if he's going to leak my shit, then you get LMR. Just on the basis that, because I think it's like we're talking fear here. So if she knows for a certainty, here are the consequences of me fucking this dude, but I'm not sure about the
Oh, I just lost you. You
consequences of,
said you were talking fear here.
Okay, am I back now? Do you have audio?
What the hell? Carl, you still there? Am I
Yeah.
still here? Here, guys in chat, I don't know. Did you guys lose me, or did I lose him, or did I lose you? Oh, one sec, Carl. I can't hear you.
Okay, I'll just do the rant I was going on then. And the whole issue there is if she knows that by banging this chick. Oh, Jesus, I got a big echo there. This is what happens when you use crappy headphones, by the way.
No, it was just the disconnect thing. The thing got loose, connected back in. It switched everything around. StreamYards did some changes. We're back. We're back. We're back. Anyways, I cut you off and
Okay.
then was yelling while you were trying to talk. What'd you
Okay, what I
say?
was getting at is that if a girl is 100% certain that, okay, this guy is hot, I want to fuck him, and he's just going to leak all my fucking deets afterwards, she can kind of decide that, okay, he's this hot, but he'll leak my deets, but he's hot enough to fuck, even if he leaks my shit. Whereas if you have one of those guys that are in the middle ground, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, he's hot, I want to sleep with him, but he might leak my shit, and I'm not sure if he's hot enough to have all my shit leaked. I'm not sure if I want all my friends to know I fucked him.
Yeah, reputation
At,
matters more than horny.
yeah, at that point, I think the LMR kicks in.
See, even and I would argue like Alpha's here underneath with the plate. I only slept with two men before in my life, and then but she owned all the kinky underwear. Like who leads any part of a conversation with just so you know I've only slept with two guys. And I think that's the thing with LMR that's the test part of it. There's a subtext to it. It's like why would she tell you that information? Nobody asked. Nobody cares. I mean, you didn't care at the time, but it tells him very specifically she thinks that he thinks she's a slut. So she's telling him she's not a slut. So he needs to accept it. Even though, like, obviously in the room, it looks like kinky underwear everywhere. Maybe there's one of those sex swings in the back. That's just her way of asking you to, hey, you're the kind of guy who keeps your fucking mouth shut, right? Obviously he does. Alpha's a sweet little piece of Irish meat, so I'm sure he'll be fine. I had to find the 100 before I found the one. Dude,
Yeah,
Nick
and
is
like
awesome.
yeah, I know. And the overarching theme here is just control in every level. It's control and fear.
Mm-hmm.
Same reason guys fear approaching because they don't know the outcome.
Yeah. Which is crazy because I could see that making sense in like 1850. Everybody's got a Colt pistol and shooting people is cool in the Wild West. Maybe you could die. Maybe in some tribe of cave people, the wrong word will get you cudgeled in the face. But I mean, like, you could walk outside, make yourself a damn fool, helicopter your dick in the main street, and go out the next day and nobody will recognize you. It's like the limbic brain hasn't caught up to in the environment, and there's just no reason to fear anything. So why wouldn't you enjoy the process? But then that's the thing. Our brains are hard. They think too much and they don't think enough. Our limbic brain takes over when our frontal lobe should. And by the way, that is a weird thing for guys that tend to be overly like literal and autistic and systematic. That their limbic brain has such a control over their lives and like the most important aspects. Um,
And I think that's one of the other benefits of at least some of this fear advice. It does push you outside your comfort zone, which
all I
is
can think of
which
yeah.
is something I think a lot of the guys who come here have an issue with moving out of their comfort zone. Because I was thinking about it the other day, like how easy and chill would your life be if you had absolutely no interest in sex or women?
I was gonna say gay guys, but they're interested in sex, just not women.
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean,
That's why I
you'd almost be
added
like
that.
that old guy hanging out in the park feeding ducks. Your life would be chill as hell.
And because there's like nothing there you don't have control over.
Hmm.
But being able to have any form of relationship, even just plates, requires you to let go of a degree of your control.
I'm gonna put like an IT reference here, and it's gonna be so nerdy, but I think you'll get this one. You know how hard it is to get a company, especially like older established companies, on board with using cloud services. to like remove all the infrastructure that they use and replace it with services that have a much smaller overhead, right? And I know Gartner, they always had like, okay, the big point here that they have to understand that you really should impart on them is it's a you have to lose an element of control because you don't own every piece of equipment all the way from the customer end to your end. You have to accept that these risks you're offloading them onto, AWS. And then you accept every risk beforehand. But then, and I've done this a couple times, and then what happens is the bosses will eventually push, well, I want you to mitigate all the risks on like Amazon's side of things. And you're going, well, it doesn't really work that way. Like, what do you mean? Well, first off, Amazon's not going to tell us shit. They're going to show us a SOC 3 certification or their 27,000 ISSO, and that's it. And they're like, if you ask them for more, they're just going to be like, shut up. We're Amazon. You don't get to ask. And then you're explaining to them like, but you have to accept that on the understanding that they do security so well that you don't have to worry about it. Whatever rinky-dink stuff our firm is, even if we got a ton of smart guys on there, we're never going to be as good as the entire team at Amazon. And if Amazon does get hacked, 1,000 guys are getting hacked, of which our rinky-dink Canadian firm isn't going to matter. They're going to care about the American bank that they just caught. So if anything, that does mitigate the risk. And that was like the biggest. And I think it's more than just sex and dating. I think it's just the way the human brain is wired as soon as you build any level of success. Because if you're running a Fortune 100 Canadian company, you're making $100 million in revenue in a year, which isn't a lot, but it's a lot for you and it's a lot for the people around you. And you took 20 years to get there. Now, same thing with sex. You get a guy that's went to university, got himself a great engineering job. Yeah, he's terrified of losing all that stuff. Even though you're like, well, like, fuck, you can get another job. It's not a big deal. Well, you can always just stop, become an Instagram influencer. You'll be like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no, like, Carl, you could lose everything tomorrow. And you're smart enough that you could probably build it all up again in like the next 5 years.
I just don't want to.
Yeah, you don't want to. But at the same time, if you had to completely cuck yourself and act like a goddamn control freak to keep it there, I'm guessing you wouldn't.
No, I
Because
wouldn't.
you have
That's
that
why
confidence, you can rebuild it.
like a couple of the things that have been going on behind the scenes here with me, and one of the things is I like to be very, very hands off with virtually anything.
Yeah.
And that's just because if I have to focus on what everyone else is doing on top of what I want to do and what I'm doing, then that's too much noise in my head. It's kind of like I can understand why Steve Jobs had that only do the same outfit every day thing.
Oh yeah.
Because you are spending like if you have to pick a tie, you are spending 30 seconds doing it.
Right.
Because you're trying to like, okay, what's my mood today? What's the context I'm going into? What works with the clothes I already have on? At least that's the way it's with me. Like color choices, tie choices, etc. And even down to like footwear. It's just
Right.
on a basis of it's decisions you have to make on a running basis. And if you're making decisions all day and you're thinking about decisions all day, last thing you want to waste brain power on is, what color shirt am I supposed to wear with this tie, or what footwear do I wear with these clothes? So I've simplified that just by taking the normal, let's say, etiquette rules and just applying them generally across the board. Like, okay, you never wear brown shoes with black pants. You never wear, white socks with black shoes. You never wear like a mixture of jewelry unless it's a wedding ring. You never wear, and it's just a way of simplifying decision making. Same reason why like 90% of the food I cook is Asian-esque. Because
Asian, Mexican.
because like all you need to have in your fridge, if you have a selection of vegetables, like I go and buy vegetables twice a week, and then you have a selection of proteins in there, and you have like a million fucking different sauces, and you just make enough rice to last you 4 or 5 days, and you've taken virtually all decision making out of cooking. You just grab whatever protein you're feeling like having with the food.
But that's the thing. That's kind of on the point, though. Like, you're not trying to control everything. You're just setting up a process that you can kind of trust in. If your food gets spoiled because you bought a bad batch, you just go to the grocery store the next 2 days. I think it mapped perfectly well to the whole control freak, fear, women thing. Just have a plan. Trust the plan. All right, do the approaches. Learn a yad stop. Learn an old man opener. Have an opinion opener from Mystery. Know how to have, like, what is it? They want you to have 3 personal anecdotes that have like 3 displays of higher value in them. Have these things in the back pocket. Then you don't have to worry. It's like, oh, do I approach this girl? Well, there's like it's a fear. She might reject me. I don't know what the outcome's going to be. But you're like, yeah, but I got all these tools and I'll be fine. And if they're not fine, it'll work somebody else. Because like you said right at the beginning, well, I've already slept with like 5 girls now. I can't be that ugly. So if this one rejects you, the rejection hurts less. Having said that, what you said before is where a lot of times that guys just need the confidence to go approach that. All I could think of when you were saying that, by the way, was Alpha Male Strategies with his "Stop Being a Bitch and Come On" looking YouTube channel. I don't know if that's the best advice either, because just telling some guy, just fucking do it. And they're going to go fucking do it. And they have no idea what they're doing. They're going to blow out. They look ugly. They act ugly. They get shot down. I don't know, but Alpha Male said to do it. He's 6 foot. He knows what he's talking about. I think there's part of it is like a technical skill. And I know this is because of the way I've approached pickup when I was in there. For me, I approached it as if I was learning carpentry or woodworking or painting. Yeah, there's a lot of creativity in it, but there's fundamental skills to learn. It's kind of how I try to do the channel, as if it's like you're learning a skill.
Yeah,
but
that was
again,
kind of
I think
where
that
I.
kind of removes the magic from it too. But that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, but it's the same thing when I did that whole 50 dates in like 2 months thing.
Yeah.
And one of the things I noticed was since I hadn't really been very active with the game when I was at the start of that,
Yeah.
there was a bit of klutzing going around. But I have a million stories I can tell, so I usually rely on being funny and being a good storyteller.
Yeah.
Anyway, point being that as I went through the dates, when I hit about date 15, 20, things started to become very mechanical. And I kind of commented that on Twitter at the time, like, I don't see why people are shitting on, or arguing between, natural game versus scripted game, because natural game, if done right, will almost become scripted game over time, because you learn what stories work, what openers work, what conversation topics to stick on. Like, I even got down to, like, I had, like, a paint by numbers system for Kino escalation in my head.
Oh, like the DiCarlo one.
I'd never heard of that one, but it's just essentially, okay, shoulders, upper back is fine initially, and then you kind of go from like shoulder to forearm, forearm to hand. If you want to test for a kiss close, you can try and brush some hair behind your ear, because if she'll let you do that, she'll let you kiss her. And that type of thing. And it's kind of just... It got so boring at the end because there was no creativity left in it.
Well, that's how the hierarchy started, man. Those pickup artists, they found the whole thing was kind of mechanical. Chicks were never really much past like the first thing. Most chicks weren't shit, and that's true. And then they kind of went all like, fuck it. And hierarchy eventually became MGTOW. Like actual MGTOW, where it was guys that just got burnt out because the whole thing had become mechanical like this, and they just lost the joy for it. It was like the depressive, nihilistic red pill phase. And then half of them went out MGTOW, and then the other half were like, well, fuck it then, I'm going to go do a job. And then they find out, hey, this pickup stuff worked on my boss, so maybe it's about taking the red pill. Although here, we're getting backed up on these. I'm going to do quick. Ryan, you're on point. On Olympic level, women understand that men understand that promiscuity devalues women because of the paternity thing. I don't think they think of it that way. I think they think, like when I'm yelling at my dog looks sad. And I'm like, yeah, he feels guilty. But he doesn't actually feel guilty. He just sees I'm angry, and he knows if he acts like that certain way, that I stop being angry. I think that's just it. Girls know you won't like them if they say you're a slut. I don't think they think of it like a devaluation. But I mean, it's the same thing. And this one, you're going to have to take it, Carl. Because what cloud hosting VPS provider would you recommend if you don't want to get parlayed or have privacy concerns? Yeah, I don't think there is one.
If you have those concerns, I would set up a server in your own fucking basement, man.
That's probably the best. Because then all they can do is go after your ISP.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, we're going to have some form of independent ISP soon, because with all the crying I'm seeing politically now about both social media, hosting, and internet infrastructure in general, I think it's going to be made into some kind of public utility model very soon.
I know. I'm actually looking forward to it. I think Canada's going to be one of the last though, because we've had our oligopoly when it comes to like telecommunications for the longest time. Like they've actually got regions. If you're on the East Coast, you have Rogers. If you're on the West Coast, you get Shaw. Quebec Tel, like Winnipeg for a bit there had Manitoba or Saskatchewan, whatever, which was like the one nationalized one already, which worked amazingly great. But that's the problem. It's like the equivalent of trying to get the Koch brothers to start handing over some oil reserve stuff so that way you can have some, good
Yeah,
quality of
yeah.
life.
It's going to be one hell of a battle, but I think the internet is so ubiquitous to how we communicate now that it has to be recognized as a form of, like, you're essentially cut off from politics and influence in politics if you don't have access to social media.
Pretty much.
So it's
You're
getting to a
covered from
point
anything. You
now.
can't even apply for a job without the internet and social media at this point.
No, so I think it's just going to have to be a point where they're like, okay, you know what? We're just going to have to make this a public utility. Because we can't have a situation where, like, whether or not you're given access to basic government services is dependent on if Comcast is being a cunt that day.
Yeah. I guess it's going to be like that fight to make weed legal, which seems like it's only gonna happen once there's like a financial incentive for government to do so. Like what was the happen with weed? What did you need? You need a financial crisis to the point where they needed the revenue more than they needed the moral outrage. Although wasn't that how
Uh,
prohibition ended too? Everybody realized like a fifth of the American economy got shut down overnight and they needed the money because of the Great Depression.
I think it's going to be mixed. I think from a public health perspective, the fact that Canada and the US are working on legalization means that there's going to be more research. And we already know from pharmacological research that weed is probably the least harmful substance in existence. Like, the only thing I would argue that certain forms of psychedelics are even less dangerous because you can get addicted to weed. You can't exactly get addicted to LSD trips. You have some dude sitting in his kitchen tripping balls every day. You just I've
God, that
never
would be
done psych.
hell.
Like, I've never been like a huge psychedelics dude, but it's not like you. I don't know anyone who does psychedelics who's like does it more than max like once a month. Like, the only guy I know of is like Joe Rogan, who takes fucking DMT and lies in a sensory deprivation tank, but he's kind of fucked in the head.
Yeah. Too many kicks. Yeah, I don't. For psychedelics, I've never heard anybody who woke up in the morning and then had shrooms before they get out of bed. I think that's the big. They've never had shrooms and then gone to work. I think you need a certain level of like function in order to have something that you're addicted to. That's why caffeine and alcohol and weed work so well because you can be stoned and go to work. And a lot of Canadians are kind of doing that now, which is absolutely hilarious. But I think they always
Well,
were. It's just now that they're like openly admitting it because now it's legal. That's my
well,
theory.
it's like, I remember a quote I once heard back during like the gay rights thing,
Hmm.
where someone said something akin to, "I wish that all gay people would wake up tomorrow with green faces, just so the general public could see how many there are."
I don't think that'll work out the way they think it will, though.
Maybe not. I think weed becoming legal is inevitable at this point because every single government virtually around the world is needs the revenue.
Yeah, that's exactly why it's going to work. That's why it worked in Canada. I mean, we still got our weed stores. I don't even smoke that much. That's the thing. I smoked when I left the military. I smoked a bunch when it was illegal, and then they made it legal, and then I just didn't want to do it anymore. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be as bad as everybody says. Yeah, the gay thing, like the whole LGBTQ, I don't know. I don't really like doing the topic anyway, but I think it's such a small sample size. And because everybody who's gay leaves to go to the city, that you just have giant concentrations of LGBTQ right around where all like social media kind of gets going. And so it's a very small, very vocal group. But I bet you anything, there's probably as many furries as there is like Qs. I don't know, the ones with the dresses, the MTF and the FTMs.
Ah, fair enough.
But then that just lets me know, and that's my other concern about it too, because like the weed thing, you make perfect sense with that one. It's like a lot more people are doing it than people think. It's been dangerously overblown when it comes to the side effects, and from a revenue perspective, like there's no downside no matter what angle you hit it from, other than Jesus said weed is bad because somebody in the 30s made cake or cornflakes. You know what? Let's just stop. I hate this one because this is gonna be the one that fucking gets me in trouble with YouTube. Fuck it. Yeah, Dante's
Yeah,
right. Let's find a 1940s Germany reference.
well, anyway, I just wanted to mention that I think the most interesting part from Canada is going to be because there was a report that a lot of Canadians are replacing part of their alcohol consumption with weed,
Yeah.
which has a certain logic to it. At least in like, I don't like mixing the two, but like it could be okay with like a beer or a glass of wine or one scotch with it. But like, no one's going to go out and pound like 12 shots and then smoke a super blunt.
True.
And it's going to be interesting because Canada has both Statistics Canada, the National Health Service in Canada, and they have legal weed. It's going to be interesting to see if people start to replace alcohol with weed. What effect does that have on public health?
That would be interesting. Because I know booze companies are the ones that are buying up all the weed dispensaries right now. So they're, from an economic perspective, they already see it as a threat, and so they might as well just buy it all out. And they got the resources to do it, which is going to be hilarious to see what kind of like Budweiser weed comes out of the States. It'll be fucking horrible. This is ridiculous, but you could smoke it all day and not even feel high. It's like, well, is it even weed then? I don't know. Whatever. Good for you guys. Have some awesome commercials, chicks in bikinis, dudes high-fiving each other at the bar. It's time for a Miller Lite. Miller Lite weed. It'll be the new masculinity thing. It's like, bro, are you even alpha male if you don't smoke Bud weed? Budweiser weed? Oh,
Yeah, I just don't want to try.
It becomes so cringe that people talk about weed the same way that people talk about boomers now. Weed smoker? What are you, 50? Ugh.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting anyway because it's the same issue that we've been talking about for like an hour and 10 minutes now about control.
Yeah.
And government has to give up control and legalize something that they don't know the full effects of. But in my opinion, it would probably be good to replace a lot of drinking with weed just on the baseline that I've never seen two stoners fighting.
Well, that's my favorite part of the time at the bar. Once they run out of alcohol, last call comes, and then two guys are outside and like, "What'd you say to me, bro? You want to repeat yourself?" And then start fucking doing the chicken dance, getting real close where they almost kiss, and then throwing down, and somebody's Gucci jacket gets blood on it. I love that shit. The redneck in me thinks that's the greatest part of the bar.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but you're right. People hurting each other is bad. There's too many guys.
No, I
wouldn't kill us.
I don't give a shit really. I try to not care as much about people outside my personal sphere as humanly possible because it's a waste of time.
Yeah, but you are right. Less people would probably get hurt. Although I don't think the standard concerns for alcohol, I just don't think they're there anymore. Like what was it in the 20s? Is that guys would just get drunk, spend all their money from the home, and then beat their wives. I don't think guys are beating their wives anymore. Like, I think domestic abuse is pretty much handled as good as it's gonna be.
Yeah, funnily enough, though, maybe the trads will bring them back. Are you really a trad man if you don't have a drinking problem and go home every Friday to beat the shit out of your wife?
Oh, I saw another great one on the trad thing too. Like it was just as funny as that one, where guys like, I want to return to traditional life, and then they find a girl with silicone implants wearing lip gloss milking a cow. Like, and I get it. Trads are like, we're just nice, kind people. We just want to have a white picket fence. I'm like, you guys are basing your life off the aspirational cigarette ads. Like, how are you not supposed to get made fun of at this point? But whatever. For like individual people, we all have our escapism. That's fine. It's the influencers that get me on that one. They're like, yeah. Here, let me show you how to paint pickets white. It's like, dude, why don't you just sell them crack? At least then it's like obvious you're in it for the money. You know?
Yeah, I just don't think Ref Dante's comment in chat here, he says, I don't know how we were able to shift from piss drunk 1920s to post prohibition drink moderately. I just think that throughout our history, we have two histories. We have the documented history, and then you have what people were really doing. Like, the trads are looking at the cigarette ad of the dad with the pipe getting a martini served by, and his well behaved kids are sitting down by the chair while he reads the paper.
Yeah.
Reality is, mom got drilled in the ass by the milkman earlier that day.
And dad was day drunk all the time. Mom was taking, for hysteria, they'd give her like Quaaludes and Xanax. And she would take those with alcohol. They called them Milltown martinis. Everybody was just drunk all the time. And that's why people died at like 60 years old back then. Yeah, the whole thing. Even the prohibition, he was talking about this. Prohibition didn't mean people stopped drinking. You know what it meant? It meant it was illegal to manufacture and it was illegal to sell, but it wasn't illegal to drink. So what people would do is once prohibition was coming down the pipe, they would stockpile. Like there was speakeasies that managed to stockpile enough booze to last the entire prohibition era. And they were just legally running a bar because they were smart enough to store enough to weather the storm. And then doctors became pushers. Speaking of like trust the science now. Doctors used to prescribe whiskey for all kinds of ailments. So everybody started getting fucking glaucoma. It was medical weed, medical marijuana for the 1920s.
It's actually a hilarious one with when Winston Churchill went to visit America during Prohibition.
Mm-hmm.
They actually have his prescription preserved.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'll see if I can find it. It's kind of funny, but it's the same thing now though. Like I've joked with like a lot of the countries that have like basically free pills from the healthcare service.
Mm-hmm.
That the reason why the rates of alcoholism / illegal drug use is so low is that everyone gets their shit from the doctor.
Actually, that would make a lot of sense because SSRIs are fucking epidemic levels right now, and drinking is extremely down, except for among like 20 to 30-year-old white women. They seem to be binge drinking like a motherfucker right now. But they're also the pill popping community. I know, it's weird. And then steroids. 35 to 45-year-old men are like the prime steroid category. Turns out bodybuilders aren't the main customer base.
Now, here's a funny one. I've actually found the prescription, and here is how it reads. January 26, 1932. This is to certify that the post-accident convalescence of the Honorable Winston S. Churchill necessitates the use of alcoholic spirits, especially at mealtimes. The quantity is naturally indefinite, but the minimum requirements would be 250 cubic centimeters.
Here, actually, you know what? I'll just say this one. So Gerard has this one in the chat. So people actually drink much less than they did in previous centuries. Prohibition actually did have an effect. I would argue no, because alcohol consumption is down worldwide, and prohibition was an American thing. I would argue then that prohibition had the exact same effect that feminism did, riding the coattails of an already existing trend and taking credit for it. There's your wham and ain't shit quote for the day. Feminism didn't do shit. Feminism just followed behind shit that was happening and took credit for all of it. Sorry, suffragettes. Everybody else got universal suffrage about within that 20-year span that you got yours, so all your whining didn't solve nothing. In fact, I'm pretty sure black people got the vote like 10 years after suffrage.
Yeah, it was very
they
close.
weren't exactly too helpful.
Yeah, this is a good one from no, I was reading Nick in chat. All my friends are constantly drunk except for a sketchy cushion of sobriety they need to drive their kids around.
Yeah. COVID's been eye-opening for me on that too, because the LCBO was an essential service and literally everything else but liquor was closed, and they just opened one out like half a block away from me, which is weird, by the way, that I'm in like a very expensive part of town with like liquor stores everywhere, but whatever. The liquor store, gun store thing's supposed to be the poor town. And all I would see was like chicks with baby carriages rolling out. There was like barely room for the baby in the thing with all the wine bottles they had rolling out of there. It was just insane.
Yeah, I've kind of been looking at that too, because one of the things that we have in Europe that I don't think you see the full effect of in Canada
Yeah.
is that because of the open borders, no one really has control over what the alcohol consumption in a given country actually is. Because let's
Oh,
say you can track, let's say, the alcohol consumption in Germany, because you can track everything that's being produced and sold within the country of Germany.
right.
But a lot of Germans drive to Poland to buy cheaper stuff. And they can bring back fucking mountains of the shit because the regulations are set in a way where you can buy like a pallet worth of beer and bring that with you across the border.
Oh, I'm very familiar with with like custom alcohol requirements.
So the interesting thing there is no one really knows how much a given country drinks, and I think the overall like totality of like prescription drugs, illegal drugs, legal booze, illegal booze, etc. No one really knows how much a given population is consuming with any degree of accuracy, because like if someone asks you like how much do you drink or do you smoke weed when it's illegal or you drink too much and there are social norms for it, you're never going to answer that honestly.
Yeah, might as well ask a chick for her notch count at that rate.
Yeah, like I had an old buddy of mine who he was in his 50s at the time, and like we knew he had liver problems, but his doctor didn't know how much the dude drank. The doctor was apparently they had a conversation like, "Dude, you have cirrhosis of the liver. How much do you drink? 2 to 3 units of alcohol every week." And that's the only time I've heard of a doctor calling a patient a fucking liar to his face.
That's awesome. Your eyes are so full of shit, they're yellow. Oh, no, wait, that's jaundice. Whatever. Joke still works.
Well, it's the same thing as like if someone like if your girl asks you like how many girls have you slept with, you're never going to give her a straight answer.
Yeah. Unless you're an idiot. Because what the fuck are you going to tell her the right answer? Why would you be honest about that? What's the point?
Like my go-to to that one was either you're my first or you're like I lost track after about 110.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to, I can check my little black book in my archive.
Oh, you still got that next to the footage? The archived
No,
videotapes?
no, I tossed all of that a while back.
Which is good. We're bringing up that one lately too, where guys were so worried about false rape charges and that. Well, I'm like, well, a wiretapping charge is much easier to beat and much less consequence than a false rape charge. So something to think about. I cut you off though. We were talking about something a lot better than that.
Well, it was just, I don't think people are being honest about things. I think that's what we're seeing now because Japan has had it like that for years, right? Where you had like the public face, you have the family face, and you have the face you only show to yourself. And we're
Yeah.
kind of getting there because we have our social media face, we have our friends and family face, and then we have the I'm going to lock myself in a room by myself and trip on balls on DMT for 3 days.
Yeah, that one always gets me. The public and social media faces. I think the social media face especially because it's like the three faces was usually the Japanese style was kind of like a necessity. Like you work hard, they have a certain culture, so at work you have to act a certain way. It wasn't that you were putting on an act to get promoted. It was just if you want to function there, you got to act normal. With your family, certain cultural norms, you got to act a certain way. With the social media thing, you can basically create your own narcissistic fantasy. And then, depending on how good you are at it, other people will reinforce it or not reinforce it, you know? That's what gets me. It's got that mental delusion aspect of it. Thank you very much, by the way, Life Math Money for 200 lightning. That's like that's like Mercury
It's
shoes.
Indian Rand, I think.
If you guys don't know, big account on Twitter, worth following. It's a pretty fun guy. No comment though. It's too bad. I always like hearing what you have to say, but whatever. Follow his Twitter, you'll find it.
Anyway, like, the point I was getting at is that there used to be a degree of consistency in how you were. Like, there's always been like secret lives, but it's a degree thing. Like, how to what degree? Like now, I think the girls are getting their confidence boosted on social media because like even that posting like I was dropped by like Reddit the other day. I'm not sure why.
Because you hate your life. I get it. It's what we all
And
do.
I ended up going into one of those nude selfie type Reddit threads. And the interesting thing was, like, it didn't matter what the girl looked like almost. Like, it could be 450 pounds to 300 likes.
Yeah. And always a couple simps in the comments, one hater, and then 5 people dogpiling the hater, and he's way down to the bottom under controversial. You can't compete with that.
But I think we're going to have to close that gap just on the basis that we can ignore reality, but reality doesn't ignore us. At some point, we're going to have to, those comforting lies cease to be effective. It's like the comforting lie you told yourself that, well, you know, you really don't want a girl, like, because your life is optimal sitting in your sad MGTOW apartment playing video games, eating pizza, smoking weed.
Well, I guess my first question to you on that is, who is we? Everybody always says a we need to. That's my first thought is, who is we? Define the group that needs to take action.
Everyone.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't think so, though. I don't think it's going to happen, because what you're asking there for is basically unity. You're asking,
Yeah.
oh, there we go. To a hungry man, rotten food is still food. Fair point. Thank you
Yeah,
again for that's good.
the point I'm getting at, though, is, like, I don't think we're going to change voluntarily. I think we're going to be forced to change, because you're seeing it very clearly now with, like, I've talked people's ears off about, like, the generational switch in politics when boomers are no longer in control.
Yeah.
But we also have a situation where we're going to have to get rid of fossil fuels in like the next 10 years, 10, 20 years. Because the IEA came up with a new report where they're basically saying we don't need to look for more oil and gas. We can just stop now. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a big one because, like, for a lot of people, getting their driver's license and being able to drive a car is like a big sign of independence, so to speak. But that's going to be gone soon, I think. I think we're going to see cars become less relevant. And being able to adapt to that shift driven by technology, it's going to be interesting to see how well we do it. Because, like, right now, most of our problems are caused by the fact that legislation is like 40, 50 years behind technology.
Well, and there's just too much of it. Like, how many pieces of legislation have you heard of lately that were more political pandering than actually solving a problem? And add to that, how many pieces of legislation right now were built with the understanding, like, of what possibly can be enforced, as opposed to just throw a law out there, and then whoever follows it, and whoever cheats, well, it'll be less. We don't have to worry about it. That's the part that gets me, because it's like encouraging it encourages cheating. And I think that's a really bad combination with COVID right now. Because COVID, say what you will about it, trust in institution is at an all-time low.
Yeah,
Trust in doctors at a low, and governments are low. Trust in social media is at a low. In the fifth estate is low. I don't think anybody's coming out of this looking good, except for the preppers for some fucking reason. Good for them, but Jesus. So you got that mix. You got a mix of, like, unenforceable, over-the-top, convoluted legislation and low societal distrust. Add to that, you've already got, in most developed countries, such a wide influx of, like, multicultural diversity that, you know, societal trust is already low. And I think you're just going to get a giant society of cheaters. And we're really going to push the limits of how far automation can bubble wrap our lives. But, and this is the but where you said, like, it won't last forever. I agree. But I think it's going to last long enough that somebody's going to be able to pull out an entire career of grifting. Maybe even a second generation. Because what's that Anthony dude's, the personal power guy? He was a Gen X, or was he a boomer?
Who?
The personal power, the big guy with the teeth. He's another Anthony named.
Oh, Anthony Robbins.
That's the one.
Tony Robbins.
Is he a boomer? Or is he a Gen X?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's a boomer.
So he was kind of like the first one that you could think of in recent memory to do this shit. And now we got, Cernovich is like the millennial doing it.
Cernovich is Gen X, I think.
Oh, is he? Okay. So I don't know if Gen Z is going to get their kick at the grifting can.
I don't know, but I think what's going to happen is what you've done is you've essentially democratized speech. And one of the
Yeah.
interesting debates I've been like, yeah, I don't really think like I'm reminded of a Christopher Hitchens quote where someone asked him like, do you think it's true that everyone has a book in them? And he's like, yes, I believe that, but I believe that that's it. That's where it should also stay.
What he's saying is most people are boring as fuck and have nothing good to say, guys.
Anyway, but like if you look at like legislation and technology, there have been a couple of interesting cases now in the European Court of Human Rights.
Right?
Because like it's been fairly standard for police officers to search the suspect's cell phone, especially in like drug cases, because you're trying to get to his dealer or find a network. And phone searches they've tightened the rules for phone searches quite a bit because when they instituted the rule, the kind of phones we had were like the old style fucking Nokia flip phones.
Yeah.
The only thing you're going to be able to get out of that
The phone
is
list.
phone list and text messages. And every sensible person deleted the text messages with their dealer, or if they found them, they had like a thread of, yeah, I want 2 shirts this week. I'll be by to pick up my shirts in about half an hour. Anyway, point being that the legislation was miles behind the technology because nowadays you have your entire fucking life on the phone. And you have everyone you have close contact with, you have a ton of their personal info on the phone as well. So they had to tighten that in. And I think we're going to see more of that with legislation in general because it's still adapted to a world where where we don't have the technology. Like if let's say you want to sue Google,
Right?
or you're a police officer and you're investigating Google, right? But they have their data on servers in a second country. Can you legally break into their servers from the country you're in when the servers are in a foreign country, even though you have a search warrant? Because you're technically crossing jurisdictions here.
Yeah, well, you're talking data residency. That, out of all the fields in like IT, that was the one I found the most fun because it's like you have to actually understand international law to kind of even have any insight into that. Granted, the reason I actually got started was I was at a Canadian security conference. It's like, government security stuff. And I was talking with the head of the RCMP's like cyber crime division. And he was laughing that Shared Services Canada wanted to save a bunch of money on their servers by buying Chinese servers and running this government stuff as a cloud service. And he just laughed at that one. Everybody laughed at that one so hard. And it's like people don't even think about that. He just thought, I'm going to save the money, save $1 billion a year for Canada. This is awesome. To which the one guy's like, you're giving Canada's private information to China. Are you fucking stupid? But yeah, where it sits is like a huge deal. What's that? Possession's 8/10 the law or some. What's that stupid saying?
Yeah, and that's where you have like that. Is it sea land? It's called. It's like an oil platform in the middle of the ocean. That's
Oh
for
yeah,
some
see
reason
that.
it's its own territory. So they have all kinds of shady server hosting there.
Yeah, everybody forgets this stuff. It's like, and Google's actually even one step removed from that. They have servers in 8 different countries. And it's not even that, well, these servers in this country have this, these servers in this country have that. They all have the same stuff. So you could have striped information in all 8 countries, and that no one country, even if they took all of your servers, would actually get what they're looking for. It's like, how do you even
And like,
handle that?
yeah, and like Elon Musk is talking about shooting up satellites to give the world internet. How long is it until someone has server parks in space?
Ooh, that's a good point, too.
And how are you gonna get access to those if you're a government agency?
How's anybody going to get access to anything at all? It's like literally nobody will be in charge. It's like the 3D printed guns. Everybody's always worried about gun control and that. It's like when 3D printing becomes ubiquitous and they actually can make a breech that can handle like a full clip of ammo, all this talk's irrelevant. It's like complete new space. I'm kind of excited about it because then you're going to really stop dealing with the symptoms and deal with the core issue of dealing with people. I think the libertarians are looking forward to it, but I think it's going to get messy before it gets not messy.
I don't know. I think we're in for a 20, 30 years of messy now because America's losing power, China's gaining power. We have all kinds of shit going on in Europe. We have Africa that's still kind of in a very nascent territory, but China's been buying a lot of shit there.
Hmm.
And then you have Russia. And right now, we technically have three parallel internet infrastructures because you have the American based one, which is the United States and all allies,
Yeah.
usually like the NATO countries. And then you have like Russia and their former allies or current allies. They have their infrastructure. And then you have China that has their infrastructure. And at some point, these three are going to have to merge. But no one trusts the other people.
Yep. But isn't that a lot of internet stuff anyway? Is how do you handle things? Like that was the whole point of Bitcoin, wasn't it? How do you have honest transactions when you don't trust any of the other parties?
Yeah, and I think it's a brilliant solution to it. You have something that no one can fuck with.
Yep. And their solution was essentially let everybody see the ledger at all times and make it very easy to add an element to the ledger, but very hard to fake. The asymmetric encryption. But then again, if quantum computing is exactly what they say it is, and I'm sure it won't be, then it can just break that anyway. So where do you go from there? What happens when there's like no trust and no ability to create trust? I wonder if you're going to get like a balkanization and everybody just goes back to city states and using paper because it's just the only way to get things done.
Well, I wrote an essay a long time ago that's called How Men Compete Building the Better Mousetrap.
Yeah, yeah.
And the premise behind that is essentially that all men are always engaged in both intrasexual and intersexual competition. Mm-hmm. Because we have to outcompete a majority of the other men, while at the same time we're competing against the female's ability to sniff out when we're not being honest. It's like that old joke, like if female intuition was really a thing, no woman would ever have been raped in an elevator.
that old LARP.
Anyway, point being that we're going to get to a point where everyone is competing against everyone.
Right.
In groups. And in the end, that might end with a war like it did in like the 40s, or it may lead to some new way of conflict resolution. Because I do think like the best way to prevent all kinds of war is good trade relationships.
Oh yeah, self-interest always wins out in the end.
But in the end, what we have now is like you have China cheating, you have Russia that's being hit by sanctions, you have all this stuff, and you're going to have to find a way to, because I think in the end we're going to end up with some form of world government.
I think we already do to some extent. It's just very informal right now. Like, and I know it sounds all kind of 2008 hot take, but like a global corporation, the consultancies, the big Fortune ones, the big Microsofts and that, they're already kind of creating these international like arrangements, but it's just more emergent as opposed to like top down.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting now because that was a big topic at the G8 conference that they're having now, or G7.
Uh-huh.
Because they're actually discussing how are the biggest economies going to deal with multinational companies.
That's a good question. I mean, Amazon, what are they, $1 trillion now? They're actually bigger than some GDPs.
Well, the whole reason why I think it became a topic is just based on, yes, the computer companies are huge, but it's also based on once you have a multinational corporations exist in essence for two reasons. Number one is to have a bigger market.
Right.
Number two is to exploit loopholes in tax codes or other codes in order to gain a competitive advantage. So let's say every single American tech company are headquartered in Ireland, which is the country with the lowest corporate tax rate in Europe.
Mm-hmm. I would argue labor arbitrage too, but I guess that's less important in tech, which tends to be very infrastructure heavy versus labor heavy.
Yeah, like labor arbitrage helps if you're like someone who's making clothes or building something physical. But software is infinitely scalable. That was kind of what you noticed with Microsoft, even back when you had CDs.
Yeah.
That the production costs in tech are very low because you have the same program that you distribute on a printed medium that you can make millions of without any labor input almost. So that's the issue with scalability. And I think what we're going to see now is you're going to see a closing of a lot of those loopholes. Because like it's not that hard to set up because let's say you're Google and you're working in Europe. So you have your headquarters in the United States, right?
Right.
And you have your Irish subsidiary. And then you have like 10 different country companies or more under that again. And then you set up an arrangement whereby your Irish company leases intellectual property from your American company. And then you set up so that the European subsidiaries, except the Irish one, are paying the Irish to lease that same intellectual property.
Because pretty much, yeah, it makes them zero profitability. So they're basically just scraping by on paper.
Yeah, on paper, it's zero profitability. And it means no taxes. And I think they're going to have to close that loophole because the whole reason is just they're sick of losing revenue. And that's why weed is becoming illegal. That's why they're starting to chase tech companies. And it's also because tech companies are probably the only rivals right now to government.
Yeah. How funny is that, though? Like taxation of weed. What's that affecting? That's affecting the 99% of people lower income. Because the problem is that they're losing the multi-trillion-dollar corporate tax rate or that revenue. I guess it's weird to talk about it like corporations stealing and poor people doing whatever. I think it's just more like money is flowing in two directions, but they can only have somewhat of a control over one because people can't move, but corporations can.
Yeah, and it's also because money is so digital now. It's not like you have to have a vault full of fucking silver or gold to back your coins.
Yeah.
Like if you're a tech company, like let's say I was involved in a case where a company was moving from one country to another one. And this was a fairly big company that does oil drilling rigs.
Right.
And they had a hard time moving in a short period of time because they had to move a lot of physical infrastructure. A lot of their skilled labor force was in the country where they already were. And it's very hard to get people to move countries because of their job. Anyway, point being, if you have a tech company, if you're Google, you can theoretically move all your money and all your intellectual property to another country in about 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So there is a certain...
Or was it MAAS? Migration as a service.
As a strategy. Anyway, point I'm getting at with that was just that at some point there's going to be a tightening because the governments fear they're losing control because they suddenly realize that the social media companies are more powerful than government and the press. Because the government and press have had kind of a finger-fucking relationship for hundreds of years.
They still do.
But they can't control social media. So what you have now is politicians doing things in the media, and then social media is screaming at them that they're liars. Or you have the press doing something shady, and then you have social media screaming at them for being shady. And the press and the politicians haven't quite adapted back to everyone being able to tell them that they're a bunch of assholes.
And what does that mean for us on an individual level? Well, that's how you get the Mike Cernovich, Tim Pool marketing scheme of let's read the news and call these people assholes and say that we need to change. That's why I hate that we need to or we should do this shit. It's such like a grift strategy. Like I'm still amazed by it. They lost a court case where YouTubers were considered not credible journalists. I'm like, can you blame them? You can't just read some idiot Washington Post article, call them a douche for 20 minutes, and then wonder why you're not given the same protections as the news. It's just opinion shit. But then again, CNN just got sued for that too, and they're trying to say we're opinion, not news. So nobody apparently wants to be news right now.
Oh, the same reason everyone wants to be in marketing and nobody wants to be in logistics. You actually have to do shit that's measurable in logistics.
Which is too bad, because logistics is where all the money gets made. Marketing is like having an idea for a video game. You need one of those for like 500 people that are actually building shit. Then I guess the only way around that is software is able to automate so many things. I don't know. For an individual level, I look at this and I'm like, okay, so what do I do with it? And then I thought to myself, well, if there's all these big people that need to be reined in, and obviously there's political will or political pressure to kind of that's going in that direction, I don't see a lot of little fish getting snagged up in this. Like I don't see small time grifters that are even ones that are making like $10,000 a month. I don't see those grifters getting stopped anytime soon because it's not worth the effort when there's such bigger fish and there's such bigger movements. And I'm gonna pick on Cernovich here, but let's say he's pulling 50 grand a month on his gorilla mindset shit or whatever, right? He's got the same infrastructure that Google has. Well, how can you get like Cernovich Co? He does a show in California or wherever he's in, but his servers are like spread all over the world. His stuff comes in from China and goes directly to there. He doesn't actually touch the like. How are you going to regulate Mike Cernovich? Like you're not. You're going to try for Google because at least then you can get $1 trillion out of it. And I thought it's almost, and this is going to be like really weird advice, but you almost kind of want to be cheat as much as you can get away with. Essentially, rules aren't rules, enforcement are rules. And that's kind of how I've been thinking about it. Now, how I actually implement that, I don't know. I'm not the best with that part of it. I'm still learning.
Well, I do think you're right though, like because I think everyone else is doing it to some extent. I think everyone is cheating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so tacit that no one really wants to call anyone out on it just because they know that means they can be called out. It was kind of like that, the grifting scene in the Manosphere.
Oh God.
Where like none of the grifters wanted to call each other out because they knew they were doing the exact same fucking thing.
Yeah. I think that's why we're so refreshing, because neither of us to give a fuck. Fuck your asshole tanning. Fuck your smoking and your high testosterone takes. Are you retarded? What's this guy doing?
Yeah, it's like I'm pretty sure everyone who died of lung cancer would like to have a talk with him. Yeah, the high tea will be great for a couple of years until you see a black spot on your lung.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I keep thinking back to my dad who's last month hooked up to an oxygen tank. I'm like, yeah, I don't think the testosterone's work it. I'd rather be soy. At least I can breathe. But that's the thing. And like a lot of guys just think of it as it's macho posturing, it's LARPing. And yes, it is. But it's bigger than that. It's that the consequences for cheating are lower than they ever been. And the only reason we're even seeing shit like this is because they're so low that you can make it painfully obvious and nobody even bats an eyelash. Like my theory to date isn't that like Manosphere grifters, people aren't mad at them because they're cheating. I think people are mad at them because they're doing it in the laziest possible way. Like say what you will about Black Lives Matter and those chicks getting those brand new houses out of it. They're putting in fucking work. Like, it's not a grift, it's a graft. And people can respect, even if you're a lying, cheating scumbag, people can at least respect effort and work. But then you get the small-time race hustlers, the small-time Manosphere hustlers. You guys are like, get at it. They're like treated like panhandlers, basically. I think that's the issue for it. I could be wrong, though. It's a theory I have. I haven't been able to prove it. Did I lose you?
I just think it comes down to there's always going to be cheating if there's room for it. And people are going to cheat as long as they don't get caught for it, or they perceive the risk of getting caught to be very low, right. Or they just don't think about risk. It's kind of like, I'm reminded by like, it was, some guy was debating like the threat of being caught by police with a heroin addict. And it was like, every time I put that syringe in my arm, I know there's a fairly good chance that I'm going to fucking die. And I've known that for 10 years. Do you really think that, the police is going to be a deterrent to me using heroin?
Not really. It's like crimes of passion. It's like, how the hell do you think deterrents are going to work at that point when the guy's losing his nuts while he's stabbing 2 people in his household?
And like most of the time, I don't think the deterrent effect, so to speak, is going to be very relevant in many cases. Because let's say, I don't think anyone who's going to commit violent crimes or have that mindset are going to be like, yeah, I would stab this motherfucker to death, but that's going to mean prison time. Mm-hmm. Like, no one comes home and finds his wife in bed with another man. He's like, okay, let me view this rationally. No, I could go get my gun and blow their head off, but then I'd risk prison time. So I think it would be better just to throw the guy out and divorce her. Like, no one sits down calmly and rationally works through that shit. It's kind of like this idea. Like, it kind of annoys the shit out of me,
Yeah.
where people assume that people are both super rational and totally irrational at the same time.
That's what I was thinking. All I could picture is the guy walking in on his wife, seeing her schlepping the guy, leaves the room, goes to the den, starts doing up a spreadsheet and doing a cost benefit analysis on stabbing him. That's what we think people are like. And you guys joke, but that's like economist modeling right now.
Well, I was just thinking back to like the times I've been in fights, and it's never been like usually there is some kind of trigger and the fight just happens.
Right.
Because the macho posturing when guys are standing outside the bar and almost kissing, none of those guys really want to fight. They just want everyone else to think they're about to fight.
Yeah. They don't want to be. They don't want to walk away from this being a bitch. It's essentially
Exactly.
it. Which is hilarious. There's a couple times I've had guys squaring off against me, and I just took the attitude like, I'm gonna give him a way to walk away from this without being a bitch. And 100% of the time, people have absolutely taken that out. It turns out you don't have to be the toughest guy in the room. You don't have to everybody think you're the toughest guy. You just have to be more effort than it's worth, with a little bit of ego saving in there. And then you're good to go. Yeah, what's that? What's the Drew's thing where he always says, Drew Bays? How have you made yourself unkillable today? It's like, well, I let the guy save some face. What do you do?
Well, I think that bravado thing though is one of those self-sabotaging lies we wanted to talk a little bit about.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because you keep like, and if you go back to like the start here with the fear of not being attractive, you have a guy and he goes on Twitter and he sees all the guys posturing that seem to have solved his problem. And he tells himself, if I become like these guys, then that will solve my problem. And it might. Like, you could follow one of many choice cuts in the manosphere here. You get
What
your
a
leather
wonderful
jacket.
euphemism. I'm cutting you off by laughing at your jokes. Please keep going. I
No,
want to hear the
go
rest
ahead.
of it.
It's nice with a pause. So you can go and become that dude, but that won't solve your problem because they will sleep with him because of who he is. Just being him won't necessarily make you attractive.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those people who I tend to think that the most attractive thing is what's unique about a person, or at least appears to be unique. And when you have like 20 RSD clones running down a street in Prague, the last thing they are unique because everyone's same clothes, same boots, same openers, same game routines, same cocaine.
Dude, didn't the Mystery? I remember when Mystery was doing his like boot camps in LA. A lot of guys were noticing that. It's like I ran to my opener, and then the girl asked, "Are you here with that Mystery group or whatever?" And they're like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, I've heard this opener 30 times already tonight." And they eventually found that like they just oversaturated their bar market and completely killed the vibe or killed the industry. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing. Like I've tried to run game after like a whole squad of RSD guys have run through a bar district, and it's virtually like the only way you can do it is to make fun of those guys.
It's almost like
Does
the
that
meta
work?
changes and you have to change with it.
Yeah, but I think it's like I said. I think it's a comforting lie to be like, okay, I'm handling my problem because I'm paying this guy $200 a month on Gumroad.
Which is weird too. It's like it's not solving their problem, but that they're paying to solve the problem solves the problem. I don't care what course there is. You're still stuck with that same action you could take with or without the course. But a lot of guys, as soon as they get to the payment thing, it's like buying that Planet Fitness membership. You know how they make you pay for a year up front because they know in their heart of hearts you're going to go to the gym for 6 weeks in January and never come back, and so they get a full year's worth of income out of you. I think it's that exact same mentality, but instead of the gym, it's towards getting laid or business or whatever course is being offered right now.
Yeah, and if you just did the simple things first, I think paying for information should be the last option just because there's so much fucking free shit out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess yeah, I can see from an early standpoint, I like it because if you don't know what you're doing, it'll be good to get a basic framework. Because, like you said, information is everywhere, but like what order to put it into, people may be bad with that. Like I did that for an online business thing, and it was literally just, and it was like basic bare bones shit, which I kind of already half knew. But it was nice in that, okay, first start with this, then this, then this, then this. That was pretty much the only value I got from it. But yeah, you're right. That should be the only thing I could see somebody doing at the start. And honestly, the courses that come out, I find are too in depth to achieve that. Like I think they're trying to do too much, but I think that's because you're right. They're appealing to those guys that the buying the product is their version of solving the problem, which it isn't. And it helps
Well, I'm
them
just
buy the lie more when there's more words there.
Yeah, but it's just I'm seeing so many guys who've been around this place for years and seem to be struggling with the same problem, and they just keep bouncing from grifter to grifter.
Yeah. This
Which
guy's
is
the
something
greatest
to
guy on earth. Oh, he's a grifter. Oh, this guy's the greatest guy. Like your BPD girlfriend, except for you never had her paying you.
Well, I do think it's kind of weird when your fin dom is another dude.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. I guess he'll love you the way she never could, as long as you keep paying. Jesus Christ, you guys. I one time I said don't call me coach, and I've been getting called a coach for the last year and a half during the time when I've been locked down and most irked on everything. I want to say fuck you guys, but you're a good bunch of guys. Fucking couch
Hey, I
at a
tell
couch
my
as coach.
hey, I tell my friends and family to fuck off all the time.
Yeah, fair point. And I can't even blame them because I mean, these guys are going to give money to somebody. These guys don't want to work on things. So somebody's going to take it. And I know that's a really shitty moral justification, but at the same time, somebody will take advantage of that. The question is, is there any knowledge that comes out of it? Does the guy at least understand how not to get hoodwinked, or do you think that idiocy is just going to keep plowing through and not actually? I already know my answer to that question. The same reason that John Anthony guy is still doing the same shtick, bed with 1,000 women. Meanwhile, he's drunk at a Denny's. Yeah, people's delusions will last until something kills them. Never mind.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, I think we just have to get to that point where transparency takes over. Because at some point, because I think that's the drive I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, what they call the Patriot Act, where you can request government documents delivered to you.
FISA, I think it's called. Oh no,
Yeah,
FISA
something like
courts,
that.
but or yeah, I know what you're talking about. Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, anyway. So, with those and the ability to get digital documents, government transparency has never been higher. And same thing with social media, because even on there, like someone's gonna fuck up and they're gonna be like, yeah, I'm high value man, million condo, and then suddenly you show a video of yourself crying into your fries at a Denny's.
The internet never forgets is the thing.
Or, that fun video of you when you talked about how much you love women and actually cried.
Oh man, somebody saved that. He deleted that video, and somebody saved it and sent me a copy. And I don't want to spoil it, but next week there's a red pilled coffee coming out where I grabbed some excerpts of that for making the point, and I still laugh when I watch that. I love women because they always shower, they smell nice, and they're very, very supportive of you. When you're at your lowest and you're working hard, they're always there to help you out. And I'm having it juxtaposed with some chick on TikTok who's like, yeah, this guy was a doctor, but he was really boring. And I stood him up for like a month, so finally I gave him like a little bit, but she's just talking shit about this guy, the exact opposite of all this stuff. And she's like, now I don't even have to dress down and here and below because I can do FaceTime chats. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, the delusion of this thing is ridiculous.
Well, I think that's kind of where we are now. I think everyone is lying to themselves and to each other. Because the chick who's getting 10 million likes on TikTok or is flashing her asshole on OnlyFans is getting all the validation. But is that really filling that hole that she feels deep inside her? Well, she's getting some holes filled, but perhaps not the right one.
Yeah,
Same, same,
it's like heroin solving your problems. It doesn't.
same thing with the fat dude that's sitting in his on his computer right now, and he's like, "Yeah, I could have a girlfriend, but all the chicks that I want to be with, they're well, no chick is hot enough for me, guy. The guy who's
Oh yeah,
like
my
21
standards are
year
too
old,
high. That's why I'm lonely.
yeah, like Scarlett Johansson, 21-year-old Scarlett Johansson shows up at your door with like a six-pack of beer, buck naked, and he's like, "Yeah, you kind of have a bit of a snaggle tooth there, buddy."
Hey man, screw them. All right, I think that's a good note. We should probably end this one off. Rule 0 is going to be in half an hour. I think it's on Rolo's channel, and is what do you want? And he used the old Twisted Sister video for it, so you can check that one out if you want to. Carl, I know you're busy, so you're not going to be there, which sucks. Every now and then when you sneak in there, I do like having you. Every time we can steal a couple minutes of your day, I always feel grateful because you have so very few of it, or few of them.
I should just quit my job and start doing this full time.
Do it, man. It's
Burn
fun.
out, burn out in like 2 months of people being stupid.
Oh, that's fine. You just start to ignore the noise. Yeah, do it. I need you to validate my choice as a good idea, so if you do it, it makes me feel better about me doing it. Guys thinking
Fair
hurts,
enough.
don't we?
Yeah, should we? And after that, should we get our own like houses next to each other with a yard, 2.4 kids?
Oh, yeah. What was that one? Move to an area with like high trust where they play in the cul-de-sacs all together and shit. So I'm like, this sounds like small town Canada. I was like, how is this that hard to find? That you're like, that's like the trad version of how did you make yourself hard to kill today? Where's
Yeah,
your
but
white
like,
picket
why?
fence?
Kind of my stance was like, why would you want to be in? Like, I specifically moved to places where you can disappear into the crowd.
Yeah, the anonymity of crowds is awesome. Aside from that, too, I don't want a little bit of danger. I don't want an amusement park for a life. That'd be fucking boring. I want a place where I actually have to pay attention and look both ways before crossing the street. Like, heaven forbid, life offers some excitement just by existing, you know?
And I actually like the fact that you can walk around and nobody knows who you are. You can check out like the hundreds of chicks that are about one drink away from suntanning topless in the parks.
Yeah. You know, one thing I like that I shouldn't? There is a SoundCloud rapper type hotel bar about a block from my house. And at least twice a year, some SoundCloud rapper gets murdered there, and then the cops cordon off the entire block. I actually enjoy having that, like, right there. There's always that chance that I'm going to Shoppers, and I'm just going to go, like, send a book out or go buy some Skittles, and I can be right there for a shooting. And it just makes life so much more fun. Sitting there eating a shawarma. This could be the last shawarma I ever fucking have.
Well, I kind of like that too. Like there was a guy who got shot right by my building last year.
Oh.
Well, it's not
That's
like
the
I
end
don't
story.
live. No, like I don't live in a bad area, but it was like when I researched the area and I was moving here, it was kind of hilarious because I was looking like how crime-ridden is the area because it's kind of like on the edge. The part between like the seedy part of town and the normal bars and club area. It's kind of that area.
Oh, yeah, the gentrification event horizon.
Yes, it's kind of gentrified, but kind of not. And you have all the drug dealers moving from the shady part of the town over to this to the party area to sell dope and shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're fighting with all kinds of knives and machetes and shit. And like say within 3 months of me moving in here,
Yeah.
there were like 3 murders and 2 stabbings
Oh, that's cool.
near my
Stabbings
place
don't happen
here.
much.
Yeah, it was kind of like a really hilarious stabbing too. It was like 2 chicks who got stabbed at a bus stop.
You know that fight started over nothing, too. Oh, I don't know. I guess people are just, they're afraid of the world.
Yeah, but
Whatever.
I think it's like as a last comment, I think I just wanted to. I think the reason is we've overused fear as a method for influence. So everyone is pissed off. Everyone is scared to shit all the time. So they want that safety of the cul-de-sac with like the 90, with the with the 50s kind of approach to it, and they don't really want to do anything to maintain the safety. They're really comfortable that Henry, the 65-year-old security guard with a pot belly that means he doesn't fit in the fucking guard booth, will keep them safe.
They might as well just buy that Disney neighborhood, the one that they're building, like Disney City, because
They're
that's what they
actually
want.
building a Disney city.
Yeah, there's like a. It's not like a big city. It's like a small rural town. And they bought up a bunch of land. They're gonna build it like a branded city. It's like the most robber baron cyberpunk shit I've ever heard of. I don't know how far along it is now, but I'm gonna end on that, guys. You go start looking that shit up online, and you can see some terror. You know, stare into the abyss on that. All right, I guess I'll end it. Gendernomics 1 and 2. It's worth the read. I haven't put them in description yet, but I will be putting them in the description of this video. Check them out if you haven't read them yet. Plus, if you get those out, you're probably going to see book 3 before too long. Any closing thoughts while I hit end, Carl?